This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 287, recorded on December 8th, 2016.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle.
Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the Average Guy TV studios here in a very cold Bellevue, Nebraska. We have had winter is here, and it's here in full force. And you know that first, Brian, you know that first winter blast that you get, you know it's not going to be the coldest of the winter, but it just feels that way, right?
Yeah, it's been a little on the East Coast here. It's just been gray and in the 30s, but we had a little bit slushy, sleety stuff the other night. But it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, it's gonna. Our cold is coming your way, so it'll be there
thanks.
shortly.
Thanks.
I think we're expecting single digit lows here pretty quick. But of course, we post a show. It's warm when you're inside listening to the podcast.
Absolutely.
So we post a show with world-class show notes each week out at theaverageguy.tv. And this week, we're going to talk about a lot of product that we're putting links for those products in. So you might want to head out to the show notes and just have them ready as you're listening. Don't forget to join us. You can join us live or the recorded version on the mobile app. Head out to homegadgetgeeks.com. We want to thank LastPass for their sponsorship of the mobile app. It allows us to provide that for you. Really, the best way to listen on the road is through the mobile app. And so head out to homegadgetgeeks.com, both Android and iPhone buttons, big buttons out there for you to get access to it and download it and get it going. Really, most of you do this by now, but we provide that for you. We want to thank LastPass for their sponsorship and for all they do. They're on next week, so you want to join us. So you want to come back next week as well. Amber Gott will be here. I know we've been talking about that one for a while, but come out and see what's going on new at LastPass. I want to thank them for their sponsorship. Don't forget, we also have a Patreon link. If you want to financially support the show, you can find the link on the front page of the home at theaverageguy.tv, or head out to theaverageguy.tv/support. All right. We've got a full show for you tonight. Dr. Brian Friedlander is back with us, and he's the assistant tech guy. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's been a busy, really busy fall, but doing a lot of workshops and trainings, and so it's been exciting. It's just a great time to be in technology. I have to tell you that.
Yeah, there's some great stuff coming up. What are you finding in your workshops? What are you finding? What are you doing the most of, or what do people have the most questions around, or kind of where are you at with those? What's the popular stuff?
I mean, what's coming, at least in New Jersey, is, Chromebooks are still the rage. And so I've been doing a lot of training on working with kids with reading and writing disabilities and using Chromebooks. But, I mean, they're using Windows and Macs too, but with the Chrome browser. So it's kind of a interesting phenomenon, that's for sure. But it's still it's just amazing what, we're doing in the Chrome browser today. It's, years ago would be, a full installation of an application, and now it's just an extension, and it's lightweight, and you can use it in different environments. So it's really exciting.
Is that getting better when we think of the assistive technologies that kind of have to happen around with students who need that help? Is that to a point, and it sounds like from the Chromebook, is it fully complete, or are there still some areas where they kind of need to catch up? And is Windows in that same boat? I know there's a lot of stuff built into Windows, but
yeah, I mean,
what's the comparison?
I would still say that Windows and Apple still has better accessibility across the board, but I mean, I think definitely Google is on their toes with what they have to do. I would say that probably for overall control in the environment, still Windows is probably up there, with Apple second, and then Google probably third. But they're working hard on all the accessibility features. Probably when we think about we think about students with learning disabilities, the platforms are kind of on an even keel right now. But when we talk about individuals that have significant motor disabilities where they have to control things with switches or other interfaces, Windows and Apple are still, way ahead, and kind of Google kind of falls behind in that respect. But for, most mainstream students, it's really a fantastic solution. And also, as you know, inexpensive. So that's the other
Yeah.
hallmark of that platform.
From a hardware standpoint, right? When you think about that, although a lot of people have boxes that can run Windows, and so that probably works. What's the most common? It's easy for us, and this is an area I live in. I never use any of those technologies that are built in, and every once in a while you make a wrong keyboard shortcut, and you turn on the voice, and it starts reading things for you, and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I turn on? What am I doing? Brian, in your work, what's the most commonly used assistive tech when we think of in the OS, like where people need help, either vision or audio, or what is it? What do you see the most of?
Well, I mean, from a standpoint of the most use would be text, text to speech. So the ability to highlight text and have it, being read. It's pretty across all the platforms. It's there. I think it gets down to preferences for the speech engine themselves in terms of what Apple's using, what Microsoft is using. I just actually read today that Microsoft, I guess in their next big release, will be integrating another 10 voices, synthetic voices. So that's where the kind of the race is. I mean, because some of the text to speech engines just sound really poor, by today's standards, and while others are much easier to read, to use and to listen to.
And do you find with in the last couple of years, kind of the AI has caught on with Siri and with Cortana and with Google now? I said Cortana, and she popped up on my screen here. Yeah, she now typing everything that I'm saying. Actually, it's pretty good. That's working pretty well. Do you find that are you using, or are your students using that more?
Absolutely. And I think, with Google's voice typing that's built into Google Docs, it's pretty amazing. I mean, no training, right out of the box, and it processes quickly. And because Google's been doing searches for so many years, it's also contextualized. So just like Siri as well, you'll see it. You'll say, I went to the beach. It'll put, it may put BECH, and then all of a sudden it flips it, and it understands that you weren't looking at a beech tree. So it's pretty amazing. It's lightweight, and it's integrated into Google Docs. So what's better than that? And no training is needed. So it is interesting. And then what a lot of third-party developers are doing, they're trying to build. They have the API for that, so they're building it into their extension so it can be used outside of just Google Docs. So now maybe you're in Google Slides and you want to use, the voice typing. So it's kind of interesting what's happening in that.
That makes sense. Too. With that engine already there, extending out to the other
right.
As I was driving home, knowing I was going to be talking to you tonight, as I was driving home, I was having this thought. I'm like, I need to use my voice command devices more, because I think it takes some training. I think your students, when they start using it, probably get really good at knowing how it works. And so that frustration level, probably, it's like learning how to type for them, right?
Correct.
In this case, they kind of learn how to speak to the computers, where with us, we're so used to doing that input, and it's awkward for us to talk to our devices. But I'm kind of going to, I think over the next quarter, 6 months, something like that, really try to use voice in every case that I can first. Mm-hmm. Just start seeing, because I think we're getting close. I mean, again, Cortana just popped up on me here on the desktop and said, and it started typing for me what I was saying in a query or whatever. And there's lots of things I could do if I would just invoke it. And
absolutely. So, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with Alexa and Amazon Echo, and I have the tap here. So I've been doing a lot of workshops on, how okay, but I've been doing a lot of interesting workshops showing teachers how they can use this technology for students who have reading disabilities, students that sometimes are averse to using text. I mean, it's a great tool. Especially this will read Kindle books as well as Audible books as well. And what's nice about that,
if I buy the Kindle book and then put it in my library, and then tell one of those devices, we have to be careful not to say those words because it offends people, but and then tell that device, hey, read that book from my Kindle library, it'll just start reading it?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and it also, you can also read the Audible books through this device, as well. And the text to speech engine is really excellent. So it's great. But I mean, you could do, imagine imagine you're a student and you have difficulty with spelling. You could ask it how to spell words. You can ask it to look up information. So with your voice, which is really fantastic. So I mean,
But I find that takes training for us. Like,
yeah, it
we
does.
have to, because we're so used to that input mode where you just type it. And I think sometimes I get a little frustrated because I don't know the exact commands. It's
And
still not good enough yet
yeah.
to just know.
Yeah, and I think that's I mean, the upside, it's great because we're using speech. The downside, there is a cognitive load in understanding the commands or the sequence of commands, and sometimes it's subtle, and you'll get a beep and it won't recognize it, and you change one or two words that it recognizes, and then you get the response. I've been using in my home. I've been using the Alexa with lights, smart bulbs, or smart, and I also have some of the smart plugs, and it's worked out really well. But there are, I mean, I on top of my head I can't remember, but there are some of the manufacturers, the software or the app requires a certain sequence, and if you don't get it, the light doesn't come on. It's kind of frustrating because you have to sometimes say it in a very prescribed way, and it's like, instead of just turn the light on, you have to say TP link, put the light on. You have to go through this whole rigmarole, and it's kind of frustrating. I like the systems where I've been using. I just tried the TP Link bulb, and it's in my show notes, as well as also using LifeX bulbs, and they're really easy to use with the Echo as well. And I like the LifeX because you can also, give it commands to change the brightness. So I can say, set the brightness to 50%, and it responds as well. So it's been interesting for me to play around with. But when you think about the applications for individuals that maybe in wheelchairs or have motor disabilities, it's pretty exciting technology, because years ago, if you had to bring someone into your home to do environmental controls, it was tens of thousands of dollars, and now you could basically buy an Amazon Echo or Dot, and have motion sensors that turn lights on as you move through a hallway, and do things with proximity. So it's pretty exciting. I've even tested it out where I can use like an iPad in an augmentative communication mode, so the iPad is giving the Alexa the commands, and it works as well. So you could have an individual that has speech impairment, and you could have the iPad basically giving it the prompts, and the Echo responding to it. So it's kind of exciting.
Great.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
This Christmas season, Echo the Dot,
Yes.
I think you can get for $30, $30 or $40,
Yeah.
which is really reasonable, and
Mm-hmm,
you don't have to have the full Amazon, the full tall device,
right,
to get that going. You did those bulbs. I did 2 new Hue lights, so I have 4 now in the house.
Okay.
And I also ordered the TP Link. I have one of the TP Link and one of the D Link outlets.
Right.
And they all now work great with the Amazon devices.
Yes,
so
they do.
I can say, Echo, turn off the studio lights. Now, you won't be able to see this in the audio version. Let's see if she'll get that done here for me. She's probably still listening to me talk, wondering, what did you say? We'll try it one more time. Echo, turn off the studio lights. And so it's attached to the plug over there, and then you just saw the video, right?
I did.
Echo, turn on the studio lights. And I can turn on and off the lights from upstairs from here, as well as those plugs. Now, these are using standard fluorescence because I've got them in a plug, right? The plug is controlling it. But upstairs, all those lights, all those Hue lights have, I think, 8 levels of dim. And so, we have We have a couch lamp, a reading lamp, the living room lamp. This is becoming one of the challenges. Is you got to name all these particular a front door lamp, right?
Right.
And then you're right. You can set them to various levels of brightness and dim, and you can set
groups too, right? You can do
groups and scenes.
Groups and scenes. Yeah.
And on the Amazon devices, the integrations have gotten so much better just in the last 6 months of working well with the apps, where the voice commands are working way better. It used to be, like you said, where you'd have to get this exact speech in there. And now and I think I want to say there's like 12 vendors that they're working with, Smart Things and D-Link and TP-Link, where they have and they call them skills, right? They have these skills you can enable. And the skills now have almost native functionality. So it will pull those names over that you created inside the TP-Link or the D-Link or the Hue infrastructure, and it'll pull those names in, and you can just say, turn the lights on, right? And it's working really, really well. So when we think of it, we often think, Brian, of how cool and convenient it is.
Yes.
But you think about somebody coming in a house that's in a wheelchair, and how awesome that would be to have a $40 dot in every room that can control the lights via voice, or like you said, motion, or some of those kinds of things. That could be that can be a lifesaver in some cases, being able to,
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said before, that I think it's one of those disruptive technologies where you had individuals that would go in, but the cost would be prohibitive. So now you could, basically put together your own system. And I think it's getting to the point where you're always concerned in these environments, is it robust enough? And I think we're getting to that point where it is, in terms of reliability. I can even see it myself over the last couple of months. As you said, not only the commands, but it just seems so much faster. I say, turn on Brian's lamp, and boom, it's like, it's there, it's, so I think the systems are becoming more reliable and more robust, so that someone could consider it as a solution.
Yeah, I bought a plug just for the Christmas tree, and this is where it's it's such a perfect, like, turn the Christmas tree on, turn it on, turn it off. Now the plugs don't dim, which I wish they would, but that's a whole different circuitry thing, right?
Yes,
that wouldn't work that way. But we have LED Christmas bulbs, and then that's plugged into it. And I'm sure if we looked carefully, there's probably a Wi-Fi enabled Christmas tree string that
probably somewhere
flash and do all those kinds of things. But I love that. I love it in that space for the to help with people who really need it.
Yes.
I think it's great for us geeks, but you see this every day, and I think this is awesome, and it's getting good enough that the mainstream, the non-techie mainstream, can use it.
But I just we're gonna I'm gonna be traveling for the holidays, and so on Black Friday I decided to pick up this Amazon Fire 8-inch. I think it was under $60, and this even has Alexa integrated into it as well. So I'll just let me say.
So Brian, with all your gear, you still felt like it was a good value to have a $60 Fire tablet as well, or did you get it to kind of check it out for what it could do?
Well, I've been doing some workshops around Alexa, so I thought it'd be a good idea to have this with me when I do them. But the other part too is, this device is HD. It also supports SD cards, and now with Netflix and even Xfinity allowing you to download videos, I thought, for traveling this holiday season on a long flight, I'd be able to, use basically run my videos off of this, off the SD card. But it has Alexa. All you do is you hold the home key down. What's the weather forecast for tomorrow?
Tomorrow in Hackettstown, you'll see partly sunny weather. You can expect a high of 30.
Nice.
Yeah.
21.
Yeah. So it and it supports the Kindle. So I really bought it to play around with Alexa, and also for basically reading my Kindle books, and for consuming video. So
it's good. Because you're a Surface guy, we're running off a Surface right now. We could do all that. Of course, the battery life on the Kindle on the Fire tablet, it's probably a little bit better, right? I mean, on a long flight, you've got a long flight out from the East Coast all the way to the final West Coast of the United States.
Yes, I do.
I don't mean California. I mean
No.
the real West.
Real West. But I thought it was good. I mean, I thought it was really good, good value. I mean, it's pretty incredible that you can buy even a device like that at $60. I mean, it's, I mean, it doesn't have a ton of internal memory, but with a, SD card. I mean, the whole thing, with I mean, believe it or not, the case cost me like $35 and the tablet was $60, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but, and then the SD card. So it's about $120, investment, but I thought it would be, good to take on the road with me when I travel. Yeah.
You could even get one of those little battery packs that has a, I've got a Kingston one. It's got a 500 gig hard drive in it. You'll load your movies to that. It becomes a Wi-Fi device. You connect your you put that in the seat pocket in front of you and let it run, and then attach the Fire to it and stream your movies right off of there. That has been a popular way. Then you've got a big external battery as well. That's going to run all.
Who makes that one?
Kingston makes those. Yeah, I think they're little traveler Wi-Fi storage. They were real popular a year or two ago. They're not as popular this season, but cool little, where it combines Wi-Fi.
Yes.
This one has a network Ethernet jack in it, where if you went into a hotel room that was wired, you could plug that in, and then it would become the Wi-Fi. It would become your Wi-Fi port. Really, very flexible and fairly inexpensive right now. Not terribly expensive. Like Kingston makes one, Seagate makes them, Western Digital makes them. It's all in one kind of Wi-Fi combined devices. With them. So pretty cool. Let's talk about, we've got some, that's a great conversation just in those, when we think about light bulbs, plugs. And I wasn't intending, going into the season, I wasn't intending to buy any, but then I started pulling some, I had an old D-Link plug and I pulled it out and I thought, I'm going to give this a try. And then we moved the Christmas tree and I'm like, I need to plug for that Christmas tree. And then I'm like, I should get 2 more light bulbs. And the Hue bulbs are expensive. They're $15 a bulb. When now you can get an LED light bulb at Walmart for $1.50, right? We're in the era. There's no more fluorescent. You should never buy a fluorescent bulb ever again. And
absolutely no.
And it's still not as cheap as incandescent, but you shouldn't buy those either.
No.
And so it's a great era. I think this is one of those things where we're just going to continue to get better. Better
absolutely, yeah. It's like I said, it's pretty exciting. It really is.
Yeah. Well, first item on your and I'll throw this up on the screen so folks can see it. But you have a little, and I've never heard of these before, but a little bamboo slate device for you. Maybe you can. I'll throw it on the screen. Maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah. So here, I actually have this in. Oh, you have a picture?
Oh, okay. No, you got the real thing. No, just go.
I got the real thing. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So this is about that. Okay, so this is made from it's bamboo slate from I think is it Wacom? I guess it's pronounced
Wacom.
Wacom, and basically it's a regular pad that of paper and and a pen, and you turn it on and you draw, and then using their app Inkspace, I could press this one button here and it gets transferred using either an Android or an iOS device, and then you can move it into whatever environments you want. So it does output to JPEG, PDF, SVG for vector graphics, so you can bring it into Photoshop if you want. It also supports their Wacom format called WIL, which then I bring into bamboo paper and I do my magic with it. So I found an interesting workflow. The other thing too, it does support handwriting recognition. So if you just take handwritten notes, you can export them and it will turn them into editable text that I can throw into an email or any document that I want. So it's kind of interesting.
So how is it physically transferring the? So you're writing on the paper, and then how does that get transferred?
So what would happen is I would write with on the paper with their. You have to use their pen.
Okay.
And the pen doesn't have to be. The magic is in the it's a metal nibbed pen tip. So it uses, I forgot the technology. It's the bamboo technology. And what happens is it's picking up the pen strokes on the back of this slate, and then when I press the button over Bluetooth, it sends the whatever I did on here to my in my case my iPad, and then I can do what I want with it. So it's pretty interesting technology. So I've done I actually done some really interesting sort of infographics. Like here's one that I did on using the LiveScribe pen. So it has, my pictures and text, and then I'll throw it into bamboo paper on my iPad.
Which is just an app, a free app that's available.
Which is, free app. And then with a stylus, I will, so what happens with a stylus, I will actually kind of color it and make it something that looks pretty good, actually. I'm kind of surprised myself at what I can do with my artistic abilities. Let me see if I can. So here's something that I just, if you can see that.
Yeah, just tilt it a smidge when you throw it up there. Tilt it a smidge. There you go. Perfect.
So you can see, I can highlight and color, and then I can. What I do is I usually, will tweet these out on Twitter as well. I can export them. So it's kind of an interesting device that I found useful for putting together these kind of guides on how to use different technologies that I've been, working with. And I don't know, it just seems like the workflow. People say, well, what do you need? You could always just, draw right on the, on the iPad. I don't know. It just seems easier for me to use almost like a pen and paper.
And you could write on the Surface too, but I find that to be a difficult surface to take notes on. I don't find that writing experience to be satisfying. It just, for me, paper, and that maybe that's our generation. But for me, taking notes on paper is still the best way, my preferred way to do it. And I like the combination when you showed that to me, take the notes on that paper that are plain and then import them into, you could bring them, when you get home, you could put them on your Surface and then use the pen there to make the highlights and the colors and fill that in. Basically you're coloring in your notes.
Correct.
At that point,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So currently it supports just iOS. Well, actually, Bamboo Paper is available for Windows as well, but the transfer has to be to iOS or an Android device. Then you can then share it on Inkspace, which is their cloud-based storage, and then you can actually collaborate. You can share that, or you can actually bring it into. You should be able to have. Have I done that? Yeah, I think I have. You can bring it into Bamboo Paper on a Windows platform.
And so the audience for that, do you think is that the teaching? Is that the? I mean, what do you think's the audience?
I think that Wacom's going after kind of artists, but I could see it as a great tool for, and I've actually demoed it to teachers that in a lot of the classrooms today throughout the United States, there's a model of co-teaching where you have a regular ed teacher and a special ed teacher, and oftentimes that special ed teacher might be the one that's kind of taking notes or aggregating information, and it would be great to share it on a device like this. Then you could then go right out to a PDF and email it to a student or put it up on a learning management system. So instead of writing it on a yellow pad that you have to do something with it afterwards, here you can go right from handwriting to text or just handwriting, to a PDF and be able to share it out quickly with students. So that's, I could definitely see that as a way to collaborate and also a tool for sharing information with students.
Now, they also have a Bamboo Paper. Is that just the completely online or complete device where you're writing on your screen version of this as opposed to writing on paper to start with?
Yeah, so Bamboo Paper is just basically it's a basic drawing tool. Some of the tools are free. Some of them are in-app purchases. So they have like, they have a pencil and a crayon and a pen and a brush and different color palettes that you can use. I believe it's free on the Windows platform, but there may be like in-app purchases for, getting different style of paper, and the number of drawing instruments
Yeah.
would determine on how much you're willing. I think at most it's $4 for the whole thing. I think
Not terrible.
Yeah,
Now,
it's not terrible.
Not original. There are other applications that will do stuff like this. OneNote's got some inking, and
Right.
Evernote has some inking, right? But there may be an advantage if you're in the Bamboo platform, or you're using those, right? I imagine some of these would work together, or at least you'd stay in the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think, you get a lot of artists that like sort of, instead of carrying a sketchbook, they can carry this, and then they can go right out to Photoshop or, and use some of the Wacom tools and applications that they have. So, the whole thing is making ideas. The other thing too that's kind of interesting that, I know is in the business area, market, and also it's moving into education, is the whole idea of sketch note taking. Sketch notes. So it's a mix of text and visuals to get the idea. It's almost like Dan Rome's in the back of the napkin, but taking it to note taking. Mike Rohde, who wrote Sketch Note Handbook, has kind of popularized the technique of less text, more pictures. And a lot of kids that we work with, they tend to be artistic. And if we can kind of teach them to take concepts and ideas and draw small pictures, that becomes their note-taking strategy. So I can see, teachers and even students using this. This is actually the big format. They have a smaller format, which is, maybe, actually a little bit easier to put in a briefcase. And they have the smaller one with like in a folio, so that you can, put your iPhone or in there as well. So it's kind of an interesting tool. And as we, I think there's a movement even in corporate America, to, more visuals, more visualization, more graphics for understanding meaning and getting your point across. So I think that, it would fall into that as well in the education, market as well.
Yeah, we have a gal. So in our coaching community at Gallup, we have this gal. I do this Theme Thursday podcast. And for the very first season, we have these 34 themes, and we spend 45 minutes on them. And she sketch noted every single one of those for us.
Right.
And they're works of art. I mean, they are incredible in color, each having a different concept. And I actually took those, we have this Strengths Finder assessment. I took her art and I put it in a long frame, and I put my top 5 in each one of those, and framed it for myself. And it was a really great visual representation of my own work that I had done. Like, she had done that for me, she did it for herself, but she shared it with the community. And it was good enough to just put up on the wall. I mean, it was really awesome. So I also heard a statistic that we see or comprehend pictures 60 times faster than we do, something like that, 60 times faster than text. And
Absolutely.
So the more of that we do, and this is just a great way to represent that.
Yeah,
and for the artist, right?
Yeah, and if you look at the the area of the brain taken up by the visual system, it comprises, I think it's something more than 60% is tied to the visual system. And the thing is, when even when you hear the word cat, you're immediately, you have a picture comes right in, and so everything really, I mean, when you think about language, it started with graphics and visuals, right, before it turned into pictures. It's pictures,
they were pictures before.
They were pictures
before the Phoenicians changed all that.
They were pictures. You go to the in Paris and in the caves, and you see pictures. And that's what it was. So it can be. Some teachers are beginning to take some time to teach students. And again, you don't have to be an artist to take advantage of this. It's really, if you can, draw a circle, a triangle, and a square and a line, you don't have to draw up masterpieces, but as long as it has meaning for you, that's what's really important. And again, for kids that are a little less text-based, it could be a really interesting approach.
We're actually, Brian, we're hiring artists who do this sketch note concept really well. And they're coming in, and instead of their sketch noting on a big, we give them this big pad,
Yeah,
and
right.
they're sketchnoting the whole presentation
Yeah,
live. And it's not like we've prepped them, right? They're doing
right.
it as we go.
That's
And
a
then we make those available after the session. It's outside where people can take pictures of it.
right.
What a great way to remember like a keynote
Yes.
than notes, right? I mean, and notes
Correct.
are fine, but how powerful that is to have those sketch notes. So I also like that trend, and that's not necessarily a technology trend, but
Right.
I'm seeing it. We've got a lot of digital ways to do that now. And so I'm seeing it as a great way to take notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of a, you definitely, as I said, there definitely is a trend there. I mean, when you look at some of the workshops, even in the tech world, you will find sketchnoting, up there, whether they're using ballpoint pens or they're using digital format, but it's kind of interesting. And then when you take a look at something like, I know you're not going to take it with you, but something like the Surface Studio, you go, wow. I mean, what does the future hold? Especially for artists. I mean, the tools are just fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Well, and you could, I mean, on a Surface Pro 4, or we may see a bigger screen coming with the Surface Pro
Right.
5. That would be a perfect device. And I've been, you sent me a device I could hook onto the back of my Surface Pro that I could slide my hand into and kind of hold it, where it was neoprene and I could kind of hold it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the perfect kind of, when you think about it, that's the perfect orientation. You can turn that screen just the way you want it, grab the pen, and then really start, doing some things on there. I think Andrew had said out in the chat room earlier that he still feels like it's a little slippery on some of those screens to write, and I think the tip has everything to do with that.
Yeah.
And I think Microsoft has come up with a couple different tips for what we're doing on the Surface Pro.
Yes.
And even that being said, it's got a really nice surface to kind of write on. Be interesting to see that Surface Studio. Holy moly, would that be a beautiful device to have for an artist up front?
Yes.
In a presentation. Imagine that. And then what if you just live streamed that presentation being done? They could, on that big of a screen, they could create a really awesome presentation being done live.
Yeah. But I mean, there are, it's just rumors. We don't know anything, but there's this talk about, a new stylus coming out with whenever the next Surface Pro comes out. So yeah, maybe there will be some changes to that technology. So it'll feel more like pencil to paper, or pen to paper.
Well, I think there's a fundamental shift that has to go on though in our own brains. For our generation, we grew up with pencil and paper and doing it that way. I think the kids, not that they're completely away from this, there's still some need for that, but I think just as generations go on, they're going to get more adaptive to it and be able to do it so much better. And I think the medium will change, right? It won't, and maybe this is where sketch notes come in, maybe that's kind of a conversion over to more, because I can quickly add new fonts or new designs or new things very, very quickly. That may be something where that technology can go even farther, but we've got to think differently, right? We have to think about the way we do it and think differently. So
yeah, most of the sketchnoters that I know in terms of teachers, they're still using, just paper and different colored, pens and things of that sort. Which kind of, let me show you the other thing I've been playing around with, which is another way to get notes to the cloud. This is called the Rocketbook Wave. I don't know if this was I think it started as a Kickstarter project, and this uses the Pilot Frixion pens, so it's erasable. Because what happens is what happens when you actually erase it, it kind of heats the ink up enough to basically take it off the page. But one of the interesting things that may be hard to see is at the bottom of the page are these icons. And so when you get done with your drawing, what you do is you can just tick off one of these icons, and then the icons have been set up in your either Android or iOS device to automatically send it to OneNote, Google Drive, Evernote, whatever you set up. So like in the back over here,
they were really light in the video.
Oh yeah,
they were really light, but they're down along the bottom. I see.
It's kind of hard. It's hard to see, but here's my, it's probably upside down. Here's my legend of where, when I click off the, the pencil, it goes to Evernote, or the Rocket, it goes to, but you can preset these, depending upon your own preference.
And you set those on the phone, so you would go in advance
Yeah,
and set
so
that
you go
up
on the
and say,
phone.
this
Yeah,
this symbol means this. Do
correct.
this on
Right.
this symbol.
So I have it set up for email, Evernote, OneDrive, Dropbox, and Google Drive, and I think I have also OneNote as well. So it's kind of interesting. So now when you're done, you just take a picture with your camera, and you'll see it has this like QR code. So the app is really good at kind of just capturing the whole page and then sending it off to the cloud, which is another tool for a way to share notes very, very quickly.
Yeah, in a nice, when we think of a nice stepping stone in between writing on paper and getting those all digitally quick, I think there are still people, again, our brains we're trained in a certain way. They kind of think
Yes.
about writing on paper, but then when you're done, take a picture of it, and it's got all the technology built into the paper to quickly catalog that and move it to the right application in the cloud, right?
Yeah, I didn't, because I had to move. But the other paper product that I've been using is something called White Lines Link, and what it is, it was actually it's a company, a European company, and they just licensed their technology to Roaring Spring, I guess, printing company here in Pennsylvania, and they have also different writing, composition books, and the same idea is you write on the paper with any kind of pen, and at the bottom you have icons for email, Evernote, and Dropbox, and there's an app associated with it as well. What's interesting about their product is it has lines on the paper, but when you actually take a picture of it, what happens is the lines disappear when it gets sent up to the cloud, so that your text has that high contrast, or your handwriting or drawing. So it's kind of interesting, and those are fairly inexpensive, sort of composition books, or they come in different styles and sizes depending on what your needs are. But it's interesting. Again, these are all, I think, interesting tools that teachers or other professionals can use, going from using paper and pen to sharing or even archiving in the cloud, which is interesting to me.
Well, and there may be some situations where it's not appropriate to be on a screen doing some of these things. And,
Correct.
And
Yep.
Again, I find it much easier when I'm taking notes at work. For me, the best system is still like a checklist system on a piece of paper that I have written. I can't, I've tried for years, Brian, I have tried
I'm sure.
like getting, using the note taker on my iPhone. I tried it on Android before that. I've tried it on Windows before that. All the technology is there. I can put it on my phone and sync it to a million different things, and it'll show up in a million different places. And yet for just those notes, everything else I've taken to the cloud for the most part, or I've made digital. That checklist for me is the one thing I just can't move. And so I have a spiral bound notebook that I carry with me that's got my checklist in it, and
well, maybe that might be something where it's appropriate to use, like one of these paper-based products that you can then, if you wanted to archive, if you wanted a backup or something. I use, I know we talked about it last time. I use the LiveScribe pen, on a daily basis with my students, and if I'm on the phone with a parent and have to take notes. One of the really nice parts about that technology is that I can do a search. All my stuff gets archived in Evernote, and I can do a search in my hand, even on my handwriting. If I was looking for, Jim, I can type Jim and it will find Jim in my handwriting, which is really invaluable. Sometimes I have parents call me at 6 months, and after 6 months of seeing their kids, and I have to find the notes. All I got to do is type their name, and it finds it in my handwriting, which is really fantastic. Yeah. Whereas, if I had the notes, the books themselves handy, I'd have to go through every single page to find a note. So here it's automated for me, and it works well. So I think everyone has to find the right workflow for them, whether it be paper, digital, or somewhere in between. I think that's really important. Everyone has their preferences, and different things work for different people.
Randy's making a comment in the chat, which is appropriate. In the pre-show, I think I was talking about how I had forgot to send the newsletter this week or last week when I posted the show.
Right.
I have a digital workflow that every time I do a podcast, I bring it's a Google Doc that I just bring over and put up as part of the screen. And then because the podcast release has so many steps, every time I put it up because I know I'm going to miss something.
Right.
Well, I added that into my workflow, but for some reason, I have not been able to remember to look at it or whatever reason. 2 out of 3 times I forget to send that crazy newsletter out because it's been a newer step into my process. I don't read through everything. So there has been some studies that have correlated to our memory. We remember better when we write versus when we type.
Yes.
And so I think there's some things to that as well. Although to come full circle for your folks that need that assistive tech and they can't physically write, speaking it in has to, that's really their only options, and it has to be 100% digital. So for them, that's got to be just a godsend to be able to even get that stuff inputted somewhere where they can keep it, right?
Yeah, one of the issues, of course, is students. It's a challenge where they can't use speech recognition to take notes. Right. So then we try to use things like the Live Scribe 3 pen that can record. They can write a keyword, and the audio gets attached to it. Right. And then there, some new audio technologies also from been using. It's called Audio Note Taker, which is a really interesting solution for that same group of kids that has trouble, listening, writing, processing. And so imagine you have, a table, and down the left-hand side, let's say you're in a social studies class, you have thumbnail sketch of the PowerPoint or the PDF. The middle column is for, text where you can type. And then the last column is where when the teacher or professor starts talking about slide number 1, you hit the record button. And what this program does is it chunks the audio. So because we stop at certain points. So it chunks it, and then you can actually tag these chunks. So if the teacher says this is important, you could press the 4 key, which is associated with important, and it color codes it a different color than the other audio that was recorded. So now you have chunks, or almost like imagine you had different color highlighters when you were highlighting text. So now you could have your audio into different chunks based on whether it's important, whether it's going to be on the test, or whether the teacher says this would be important to review. And then when you're done for that 40 minutes, you have everything broken up by slide and by colors and chunks. And if you want, you can actually go in and tell the program, just pull out everything that's important. And it will go out and pull out those audio chunks so that you can listen to just that. So it just makes it more efficient in using, audio. The biggest issue is, the technology kind of is far out afield of school policy. So we've been having difficulty with some school districts allowing students to use audio in the classroom. So that's been a big challenge. So the technology's there. It's just whether school districts allow students to use it.
Is that something I could use? Show notes are always the hardest thing for podcasters to come up with. And is there? Could I play say I wanted to play our spoken content into a device like that, have it record what we're saying, and in real time I could be making tags and things to it. Is that something I could do?
Yeah, it's called. It's called Senescent Audio Note Taker, and there's a 30-day trial, so you can even try it.
What's it cost? What's it normally cost?
I have no idea. I don't know. Because what's happening too at the it's being used a lot at the college level, and the colleges are actually leasing it for the students for a couple of dollars a month. So I can't imagine it's that costly. But if it's something you think you might use, let me, give it a try. Let me know. I know the folks at the company. I can see what we can.
Well, that would be, we always, as a podcast community, we always struggle with the note taking thing. Not everybody loves, podcasters love to do this part. It's
yes,
the
back end stuff.
transcribing, right? Now, transcribing today, fairly easy to do. You can pay for it. It's about $1 a minute. So an hour-long podcast would be about $60. You could, and that's offshoring it. That's not too bad. There are some technologies. I could play it into some transcription like software, or Google will do an attempt at a transcription for me online and get about 85% right. But what would be cool for a podcaster, I would think, and this may be a market they haven't even thought of, is to, when I'm done, I play that live or in real time into their device. And as a podcaster, I'm making tags in the text as I'm going along. It's that way I'm not typing things out, right? I think that's the barrier for podcasters.
Right.
And
I mean, there is there is a way it does integrate. I mean, the problem is that you'd probably have to get both profiles, but it does integrate with Dragon Naturally Speaking, the pro version.
Okay.
So it can transcribe. The issue you would have is that, you have my voice and your voice.
Right.
And
that could be totally, it's a conversation. It's not a lecture.
Right. Because when even if you were paying a transcriptionist, they're going to charge you more with two people, right? I mean, sometimes, they tend
and
to.
I interrupt all the time, and so that's even more.
They're gonna fine you.
They're gonna penalize me. You interrupt your guest too much, Collison. We're gonna fine you. That's my life, Brian.
That's your life.
That's my life. That's what it would be. Hey, last show, and I think actually the last 2 times you've been on, you've talked about Office Lens. And, and have you been using, is that coming along? Are they adding, I mean, it's a super powerful tool available on all the platforms, Windows, iPhone, and Android. I've been using it from time to time to scan in my business cards. Has it been getting progressively better? Is that something you're using?
And I often recommend it because it creates really, it does optical character recognition when it creates PDF, so I can take documents in from there and throw them into other sort of text-to-speech applications. But about a month ago, they just added this feature called Immersive Reader to it. So now you can actually take, go into a library, take a picture of a page, and go into the Immersive Reader function, and it will highlight and read the text. It takes a little bit of time to process, but I mean, it's free, and it does a really nice job. And of course, you can change the speed and things like that. So the Immersive Reader feature is relatively new. You'll see it now. Before you saw it said export to PDF or export to Word. Now you'll see Immersive Reader. And let me see if I can bring that up.
Well, and I'm in a situation where I handle hundreds of resumes every single year, and it's always a challenge to get those resumes into the system. And a year or 2 ago when I was trying this, not as great there, but maybe it's time for me to relook at this.
Let me see
and start taking a snapshot of those resumes.
Let me see if I can.
Does a pretty good job with receipts, business cards, those kinds of things.
Yeah, it does. Let me see if I can see card photos. Yeah. So now it has the document feature, and so you can then from document, instead of creating a PDF, you could just go to Immersive Reader, and then you're good to.
Just read that to you, right? That's kind of
read it too. Yeah.
That's what Mike Uyghur, my co-host prior, he would try and get his books on PDF, and then he would drop those in and have them read to him, and he would turn those into like audiobooks.
Correct.
And, and so that's kind of how.
So it's got a lot. I mean, for students that are willing to pay, there is a $95 program, and that does it. I mean, it does the OCR just very, 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 very quick, and it's called the KNFB Reader. I'll put it in the notes, but it's a $100 app, and it's pretty amazing how fast it can go from taking the picture to reading the text. It's almost I would say almost instantaneous. I mean, I remember 15 years ago, these basically, actually, Ray Kurzweil. I met him many years ago, and he put together. It was a real Rube Goldberg. It was like a Nokia phone with a digital. It was a Canon digital camera, and they were like, basically put together with rubber bands. And so the Nokia phone would take the picture. The Canon would take the picture, and the Nokia phone would do the processing to read the text. And what we're doing on whether it be Android or iOS with these devices, just pretty incredible. I just got a new iPhone 7s, so the processor in there. It's like instantaneous when I scan using that program, but it's pretty incredible. And so and that program was set up for both the visually impaired and also students with dyslexia, but it's very, very fast at, seeing the page and then going right to the text. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I need to remember to pull my phone out more often and just take pictures of docs. Sometimes I'll run over. Just today, I was sending. I had to do an intern eval for a student, and it came to me digitally. I printed it, wrote on it, and then I scanned it back in using our printer. And I could have just taken a picture of that thing, and that's all they really want, right? The pictures are so good now.
Yeah, personally myself, when I go out and do things, I've been using Evernote for a long time. It's hard for me to get off that. That platform as much as I might want to, but it's done well for me. If I go into school and teacher shows me a student's work, I'll just take out my iPhone and open up Evernote and take a picture of it. And it's got some smarts too. If it knows that I'm going to be seeing Jim Collison, it automatically, when I take the picture, it says, oh yes, Jim, it associates the appointment with the picture that I took. So it's great. And then you could also do audio recordings, as well. So it's pretty fantastic. These digital tools, it's one of as you said, getting in the habit and finding your workflow is really important.
Well, the workflow is the key, right? I think
It's
in everything
key.
we do, you have to have a solid workflow to make sure you're getting every step.
You do. And years ago, I'm still not perfect, but I did purchase a Fujitsu ScanSnap, which is connected to my Evernote account. So I can just take my paper, scan it, and send it over to Evernote. So depending on the documents professionally, I use OneDrive a lot for the work that I do for filing documents. It's unbelievable how great that's worked for me. I'll take I'll take documents, scan them to a PDF, and then I'll move them to OneNote and OneDrive. Sorry about that. And then I have then I'm sitting in a meeting and I get a phone call and a parent says, "What was the recommendation you made?" And boom, I'm there. On my iPhone. It's just amazing. Or school districts will send me records, in a PDF form, and I'll file them digitally, electronically. Or else I'd be a total mess without these tech. Paper. I'm a nightmare with paper. Really, I really am.
And yet, for me, my workflow for when I'm doing, I'll hire a whole bunch of interns for the summer, and I actually have a system fairly efficient, paper only. There's no electronic piece to it. And again, you'd think like I would try to digitalize everything, but I've come up with a system and a series of folders that it's just more efficient for me to take notes on the paper, keep that paper in the right place, then pull those papers when I need to. Like when I need to do an update, I grab the right folder, go in there. It's just, for me, that's just the best way it works. Then once I hire them, they go into our electronic system and boom, everything digital at that point. Like we shred that paper and I don't want any trace of it ever again. But for the hiring process, what's crazy is when I go out on the road and I'll have someone I interviewed, maybe even in person, come up to me at an event and say, "Oh, hey," and they'll remember me, and I'm looking at their face and I am like, I cannot place where I've met them at. And eventually I'll be embarrassed and say, "Okay, where did we meet?" And they're like, "Hey, you interviewed with me." Now I get a little slack because I interview hundreds of people a year for that. But I'll say, now what I do is I say, give me your resume. And they give it to me. And as soon as I see the resume, it's like, oh yeah, I totally remember who you are. But I needed to see the text because I spend so much time reading their resumes during the interview. And I almost need that visual representation of of who they are that I wrote, again, because it was a writing exercise. Because I write on their resumes, I think I remember the resume better than I even remember their face. And so we'd had some comments in the chat earlier about some teachers feeling that the lack of note taking physically is kind of ruining the classroom, so to speak. And that can be debated back and forth, there are, some of the tech we're talking about there, you have students that just can't even physically do that. So it's not even, right. It's not even appropriate from that standpoint.
No, for those kids, we actually, a lot of times we'll give them PDF files that they can annotate right on top of, on a computer, they can type, which is great.
Yeah. Some good stuff. Good stuff. Brian, anything you're hoping to get for Christmas, tech related? You got anything on Santa bringing anything to you?
Oh no, I'm teched out, man. I can't plug it. One more thing, I don't have enough outlets in my house anymore, Jim. I don't know about you, but
no. In the wall here, I just spent an hour or two the other night. My tech wall. I have a those boards with the holes. What do they call those? Pegboards?
Yeah, pegboards.
So I have a pegboard wall, and I've got all my devices along the studs, and they're screwed in with the plastic like pipe, the pipe things. That works really, really well for that. So they're all lined up, but they weren't. They were kind of messy. I'd moved things around. Stuff was falling off the walls. Right. So I spent some time arranging that and getting things and it looks really nice right now as I look at it. But I have 4 extended power strips that are all mounted to the wall, and they're all 100% full. And I still have and that's plugging those 4 into my UPS to back everything up. And so, and I'm out of UPS ports. Like I can't physically put anything else on my UPS because, and I guess I could chain them together. That wouldn't be very safe, but no, I'm out. Like I have 2 8-port switches that that are down here. So I have 16 Ethernet. They're full.
No, the only thing I'm looking forward to is if and when the Surface Pro 5 comes out. I think I would jump.
When do you think that will be? What are you thinking? What's your guess? March?
Yeah, I think so. I think hopefully, I think it'll be tied when, I guess what they're calling Windows Creative 10 comes out, or what do you call Redstone? I mean, whatever.
Redstone 2. I think it's Redstone 2 and the Creative.
And so I literally just bought the Pro 3, and then then the Pro 4 comes out. It's like, okay,
me too.
So I know.
Me too. My daughter was complaining. She's on the RT. And I keep asking her, like,
oh my God,
I've been asking her for 2 years now, like, is that okay? Oh yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So the other day she was upstairs, just two days ago, she was upstairs and she was like, my computer's not really fast. And when she goes to college, she'll get a new computer, but I'm like, hey, do you want to borrow my Pro 3? Cause it's really, it doesn't get used as much as it should. It sits here on my desk most of the time. She was like, can I? And I'm like, yeah, just borrow it, until we get you off to college. That's 6 months from now and whatever. Right. So I think the Pro 3 is going to go. I reformatted it last night, ready for her to set up and get the pen all set up and those kinds of things. And I'm interested to get, because she's been an RT user for so long, I'm interested in wondering how she feels about the Pro 3 and the Surface, using it full time over the next 6 months. So I'll get some good feedback from her.
I use the Surface 3 a lot. I mean, I even do presentations with it. My Surface Pro 3 is connected to the a dock and external monitor and my scanners and stuff like that. I mean, I do take, when I'm doing higher end workshops, I will take my Pro with me because it does have that extra, the oomph to it. Yeah. But I use my Surface 3 a lot for every day, and when I'm doing lighter weight presentations, and it does a good job. It really does. Surprisingly, it really does.
Yeah. Good little device.
But hopefully the 5 will come out and we'll see some
new. You gonna buy one if the
5 come? Yeah, I think I will. Yeah, I think
time to.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, I think, hopefully it'll have the new Intel processor, even better battery life, maybe USB-C. I don't know, so who knows? Bigger, faster, thinner, the deal.
I don't know if I want them much thinner. I really like where they're at right now.
You do, yeah.
It's just a nice device. I am really comfortable with my Pro 3. It's just, for me, it's a really comfortable traveling on the
Yes, it
plane,
is.
on a train, in the car. Super comfortable with that, and I've been super productive on that.
Yeah, and I know people don't talk enough about it, but I mean, at least for presentations, I'm not really running that much video through it. I mean, the Miracast technology is just really fantastic. I mean, when I bring my screen beam with me, or even the Microsoft's adapter, and it's just a great solution where I'm not physically tethered to to a projector, a data projector, and it's it's really it's great.
I watched Panos Panay do a presentation like that at Microsoft,
Right.
and had two tech guys in there to make sure it would work right, and then he walked around the room with his Surface.
Yeah.
It would have been a Pro 3 at the time,
right? Yeah,
I think Pro 3 in his hand, doing the presentation, swiping through the slides.
Yes,
as they were up on.
Yeah.
So very dramatic. That's Panos, right?
Mine are not as dramatic, but very very functional. I mean, it's nice. I mean, sometimes I do. I mean, a lot of times now, school districts will provide me with, a data projector, but oftentimes I'll travel with mine, and it's great because I just plug it in and I'm off and running. And what's nice too is we don't realize is that these projectors also have some, some of them have nicer speakers built in, and that through Miracast that's supported as well, so I don't have to plug external speakers in. So it does a nice job. I mean, is it foolproof? No, but I would say 99.9% it works. I mean, again, I'm not playing video games. I may show a YouTube video, it works fine for that as well. So for me it's great. It's really great.
Garden variety computing is what I call that, and it's good enough. In most cases it's good enough, right? And so it just works for PowerPoint and some of those presentations, even stuff you got to do in the web, works just great.
It does. Yeah. It's I'm really pleased with the Surface 3 and the Surface Pro line. I think it's a great it's the best of both worlds for me. Because I'm on the road with a lot of this technology every day, and it's nice having a light but powerful system in my bag.
If I didn't have such a great work laptop, it would be my full-time. I would have it at work. Right. I have a great work laptop, and it's very functional and very durable, and for the crap I put it through, it does what it needs to do. And it has all the company stuff on it, which makes it even better that I can use. I do need the full version of Outlook for a lot of the work that I do. And so I've struggled. I'm kind of glad my daughter is going to use it for 6 months because I felt bad. It sits down here and doesn't get as much use.
What laptop do you personally? What laptop?
I have just a Dell, whatever kind of an industry. Yeah, nothing special. It's just that it's got all the right software on it to do. My job is email intensive and scheduling intensive and all those kinds of things, and so it's better. It just works well for what I need it to work for. So. I've often thought, how can I just use my Surface at work? And I could. It's just my work laptop's better for what I do at work. Well, Brian, thanks. Hang around a little bit here as we go into post show, but we'll wrap up this part of the show. Great stuff. Some great.
Yeah, it was good. A lot of fun.
It's always awesome to catch up with you. And
likewise.
How do folks? Are you blogging? Are you tweeting? What are you doing?
What am I doing? That's a good question.
What are you doing these days? How do people find you?
You can find me at Assistive Tech with a TEK. I'm doing a lot of tweeting, and my blog could get a little revitalization. It's just been a really busy fall. It's just busy. So I've been doing a lot of stuff, putting out a lot of ideas and ways to use some of these technologies on my, on Twitter, which is great. And I get a chance to share it with other educators so they can have that information as well.
Man, the educators on Twitter are incredible. I was telling somebody the other day, the whole education world has gone to Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, those teachers that are engaged and connected, yeah, that's where it's happening. I mean, to find out the latest, and the greatest is definitely, and then there's also there's a big movement, it's called the unconference movement, where, teachers are putting on, basically conferences, usually on a Saturday. And so all those educators are really connected with one another, finding out, how to do it, and basically creating their own professional development, which is really exciting, taking personal charge and control over that, which is great.
Kind of crowd-based professional development.
It is. I actually, the first weekend in March, I'll be holding my fourth one with my colleague, Mike Murata. It's great. We get 150 to 200 parents, educators out, and, do some PD, and, get a chance to, kind of network and talk and meet people, and share what's happening. Because it's really, I mean, like any field, it's just hard to keep up with everything that's happening. So we give everyone an opportunity.
Yeah, it's actually a format that I'm considering going to for all the meetup stuff that I do, where anybody who wants to present on something comes with a title and is ready to go. You post those on the wall, everybody votes on them, you put them into slots, and you just do it. It's a lot.
Do it.
Yeah.
It's
a
like
lot.
People,
and I think it gets more people, like when you publish the events that are happening at a conference and people look through it, I think that just gives them an excuse to not be there. But when it's that kind of mode and everybody gets an opportunity, I think it draws more folks.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of like it's a leap of faith, but it's amazing. We get there early in the morning and we put a board up, and within the first half hour it gets filled, and people, I mean, some people you expect they are going to, facilitate a group, and others you have no idea that they're going to be there, and they do, they do something, and before you know it, the whole day is filled with interesting topics that people want. It's not like, we're not, we're not, ahead of time, kind of limiting them. They come because they want to speak about whatever the topic is, and they don't even have to be an expert, but they just may want to facilitate a conversation on that topic, and that's meaningful.
Yeah, and it really gets, you get to the heart of the matter, and people vote with, like, if you have a topic and nobody wants to hear it, then it's not appropriate, right? And the crowd kind of weeds it out.
Yeah, we have a saying, you vote with your 2 feet. And even if you go into a session and you don't like it, we tell them, this is for you. You don't have to sit there. You're not obligated. So vote with your feet. If you go in and it's not what you want, go to something else. It's your day to learn. It's your day to choose.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do that more. In fact, we're thinking. I've been toying with the idea of starting a podcaster/tech conference in Omaha, like we do with Home Server Show has been that out in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Earlier in the spring, I've been thinking about, a lot of folks have been saying, hey, if you did one in Omaha, I'd come. And we got a lot of podcasters in the area, so I thought we'd do that unconference format where you could have both podcasting topics or tech, gadget kind of stuff. We could do education kind of stuff. Anybody can just bring what they want. We'll hang around for a day, a lot of networking, and I think that's a format that that works well. Yeah,
it works.
well.
Yeah.
So, well, good. Well, Brian, hang tight one sec. I'll just remind everyone. And again, thanks for coming on. It's always great having you.
It's always great to catch up.
Remind everyone, if you're interested in financially supporting the show, don't forget we have a Patreon link available for you if you want to financially do that. And a few of you have, and I always appreciate that when you do it. We don't need to. Just some people like to say thanks by doing that. Everything we do pretty well here. And, I run this as a hobby, so it's not like we need your support. But some people like to say thanks that way. And if you're interested in doing that, you can do it for 1 month or keep it on for a series. Head out to theaverageguy.tv. Look for the Patreon link or theaverageguy.tv/support. We'll get you there as well. If you got feedback for me, if you got somebody interested in coming on the show, if you think you've got something to say and you want to come, speaking of the unconference, if you want to do, maybe we'll do a little unpodcasting scheduling. If you've got something you think you want to say, I can't take everybody, but send me a note. A few of you have, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Or track me down on Twitter at @jcarlson. Either way, and let me know what you're thinking, and maybe we'll have you on the podcast. If it, we want some great material. Let this podcast be the standard by which you judge it by. Brian came ready with some great stuff, and so that's kind of what we're looking for when you do it. Of course, the AverageGuy.tv platform, both web and media hosting, powered by Maple Grove Partners. Get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people you know and you trust. And Christian actually been going through a whole bunch of infrastructure updates, as well as we did a whole Cyber Frontiers on a case study where Christian got some malware on someone's site, and that got taken care of, and he talked about it, and we talked about malware and hosting and some of those things. If you haven't caught up with the most recent episode of Cyber Frontiers, check it out, theaverageguy.tv. It's right next to Home Gadget Geeks. Just find it there and listen to the most recent. If you've subscribed, we're doing those about every 2 months, so just leave that in your player, and we're doing it pretty consistently. We want to thank Roger out at WLMN Radio in Grafton, West Virginia, for broadcasting us live out there on that terrestrial radio station in Grafton. So, Roger, thanks for doing that. And don't forget, you can listen to Home Gadget Geeks on the iPhone or Android app that's available for you. I want to thank LastPass for their sponsorship. They are here next week, and we're going to catch up with them and catch up with Amber, and so we're excited about that. Thank LastPass for sponsoring it. Head out to head out to homegadgetgeeks.com if you want to get that app. The link to it's at theaverageguy.tv. So if you want to do that, and I mentioned we got a cool newsletter for you out there, which I keep forgetting to do, but if you're interested in keeping up with the show, I always do post a 4-week schedule there. So if you got the last newsletter, this week was the last one there, so I definitely need to get a new one out this weekend. With the schedule. It's a great way to stay up to date, and you definitely know I won't spam you because I forget to send the letter out most of the time. So there's no spam associated with that. Get out there and get signed up. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/newsletter to get that done. We want to thank everybody who came out and joined us live. Great job, guys, out there. We'll stay around for a little bit of post-show. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. I want to thank you for joining us tonight, and with that, we'll say goodnight, everybody.